For decades, numbers of Bangladeshi children were taken abroad to foreign countries to be adopted in the hope of a better future.
Let's say children affected by the war.
But behind this humanitarian effort lay a darker truth, a past riddled with unanswered questions, lost identities and broken connections.
They trafficked the babies abroad from Dhanmondi. They were given to daycare centres in Dhanmondi so they could study and grow up while being cared for and then return to their families. Nobody knew that the babies were being sent abroad.
Two adoptees share with us their deeply personal journeys of adoption and rediscovering their origins.
It was really hard for me that she found her family.
Sometimes you meet people and it feels like you always knew them, and that's a kind of a feeling that I had that confirmed the homecoming. My name is Sander Mulmeester and I was born in Bangladesh, Dhaka. And when I was 2.5 years old, I came to Holland and was adopted by a Dutch family.
Now 51 years old, Sander Mulmeester works as a creative director and lives in the Dutch capital, Amsterdam. But recently, something has changed in Sander's life. He has learned about his birth family in Bangladesh, of which he hasn't seen or heard from in 48 years. Now, he is preparing to visit his long-forgotten past.
Okay, family. Important papers. My passport with a Bangladesh visa.
Okay.
Tak. Ready to go. Perfect. And
His wife Anna and their 17-year-old son support his journey, but he will travel alone.
this is the passport from Bangladesh when I arrived with KLM. And do you see something of yourself in that picture?
Yeah, maybe the chin and the face structure a little bit.
Yeah?
Of course, this is a long time ago, but...
I was adopted when I was 2.5 years old in a family in Zealand, and I actually, as a child, never realized that I had a color and the rest of my family had another color. My relationship with my adoptive parents was very nice, but I think the difficulty was that we had a lot of difficulty to understand each other. For me, adoption always was very abstract because I was really adapting very fast to my new environment. But later, when I was especially living abroad, I realized actually by the reactions of others much more that I have another background. The papers, the adoption papers were very unclear and maybe not totally correct, so then I really never thought so much about it, more as an accepted fact that something about my past is unclear, but I was fine with it for a long time.
And then, 3 years ago, he did a DNA test, after which an organization of Bangladeshi adoptees in the Netherlands helped him to find his biological family.
But I was not expecting so much. 3 years later, I get a message that my brother was looking for me in Bangladesh and that we are a match, that he also did a DNA test. I got pictures from my mother, the father, brother, another brother, sister, like from zero or in the minus of knowing about your past to way in the plus.
Now, Sander is ready to meet his past.
For my brother, I really thought it's really nice to find nice sweets and goodies that I enjoyed as a child in Holland as a reunite gift.
For many adoptees, the search for their roots feels like an endless journey. We meet Suma De Hey in Arnhem, an eastern city of the Netherlands.
My name is Suma. I'm adopted from Bangladesh. I came to Holland in 1977.
Suma was the one who delivered the life-changing news about Sander's brother. As a member of the Shapla community, a network of Dutch Bangladeshi adoptees, she helps reconnect families separated by adoption.
We started Shapla as an other organization in 2003. But on that moment, a lot of adoptees were just want to meet each other, so we made a lot of activities. And from there in 2017, then we thought about, okay, we have to find out a DNA data bank. We came with Family Tree. From now we have more than 30 cases we solved. We solved these cases with adoption families with adoptees, and some of them met their family.
For Suma, these reunions bring a sense of purpose, but her own journey remains incomplete. For the last 35 years, she has been searching for her own biological family.
That was before we start. A friend of mine found her family, and we are very close friends. And on that moment, when she found her family, it was really hard for me that she found her family and I didn't on that point, on that moment. This is the baby photo my adoption parents got before I came to Holland. They told me that I stayed in the baby home for about 3 months before I came to Holland.
Okay. And what is the name written there for you?
He is written Kulsum. That's the name I've got in my passport.
She began searching for her biological family as a teenager, only to realize along the way that much of the information was misleading.
It was 9 months, but in my passport is written that I was 2.5 years old. But I look like a child who was 9 months.
Though she doubted the story from her adoption papers, she kept on digging. Over the past 35 years, she has returned to Bangladesh 5 times, each time following clues left behind by her papers.
In 1989, 1990, that was the first time that we went to Bangladesh with my adoption family. And after a few days, what I have in my papers, we went to the north of Bangladesh together with the adoption family. To visit there the villages which are in my paper. We asked around to a lot of people, and we did a lot of talking all about the cases and on about my case, my story. But we didn't find anything.
Her second trip came 10 years later.
There were some persons who told a story about a family who lost a child, and it was a little bit the same which I have in my papers.
Some families claimed to have lost their children, but she wasn't able to confirm that they correlated with her story. She went again in 2005.
So every time when I went to Bangladesh, I get some questions, but I came back with more questions. So in 2019 we went. They found this family who was related to the story I found in 2000. Some of the things they were matching with their telling, and people came in their house and she looks like the mother, and but the mother wasn't alive anymore. So I get a little bit of feeling, maybe I am this person then. Maybe the story is all true. So I did the DNA test, and the results was nothing. So it wasn't my family. So after almost 20 years, I found the story, but I carried along with myself for so long. And then I found these people, but it's already a lot that you find these people. Yeah, but in the end, it wasn't my family.
When she was saying that you have your brother is looking for you, it was like, I felt like the ground underneath is disappearing. It felt so strange, you know, it was so weird. It was like somebody is talking about somebody else, you know, and that somebody else was me, but then the else of the past with connection, and that I never thought that would happen.
Sander was born in Tongi, just outside Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka. His half-brother Barkat, who still lives there, knows him as Tipu, his birth name. An auto rickshaw driver, Barkat recently had an accident and injured his leg. Sander and Barkat share the same mother.
Tipu and I used to play a lot as kids, and I really enjoyed his company. After we were separated, I felt horrible. I even told my aunt if I could see him again just once, that would be enough.
Sander has one more half-brother and a sister, both born after he left for the Netherlands. They shared the same mother, who passed away a few years ago. Barkat says they have been trying for years to learn what happened to their brother.
My mother did not know which country he'd been taken to. She mentioned something about a nearby red building, an NGO building. So we went and asked them, but they didn't give us any information.
Do you think you'll recognize him?
I might not recognize him, but it's possible. Our blood is connected.
Finally, the day of the meeting arrives. Sander was able to make it to his brother's house with the help of Shapla community volunteers, where Barkat was waiting for him.
How are you, brother?
Beautiful. Where's your family?
With no shared language in common, they were able to connect via simple gestures.
Mother talked to me about you. She asked, when will Tipu come home? How can I get Tipu back? I assured her that if Tipu has the same blood as us, he'll come to Bangladesh.
Mama, it's very special. Back here, we brought a baby, and then I'm Tipu from Tongi, Holland, and now back Tongi.
Barkat and Sander walked to the house where their mother spent her last days. Sander's sister Aisha Akhtar Suma and their other brother Mozim were waiting there.
Nice to meet you.
She used to feed you in childhood.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Barkat's sister, also named Suma, lives in this tiny house with her family now. She gave Sander a tour.
Ma, here sitting, make hair more. Yeah, Mama? Oh, wow. Can they tell a little bit more of the house, how it was when they came to live with our mother here? Was it exactly the same? Yeah? Wow. So, color same? Oh.
Sander's mother is buried in a graveyard nearby. Suma and Mozem took Sander there.
Mama?
Ma.
Ma. Mother?
Our mother was sick. We arranged for her treatment, which took place at the hospital. After the treatment was over, we brought her back home. Then she died. One day she was eating when suddenly she started saying that if she could just see her child Tipu before her death, her heart could finally find some peace. I told her to pray to God. He would bring Tipu back.
Sometimes you meet people and it feels like you always knew them, and that's a kind of a feeling that I had that confirmed the homecoming.
Seeking a deeper connection to his roots, Sander visited the Liberation War Museum in Dhaka. For him, Bangladesh's birth as a country in 1971 is the foundation of his own journey.
And for me, that image is part of my life, because I think from that period on, people were constantly moving. So they have moved in great numbers to India as a refugee for the war that was happening. But they were also being moved out of after the war out of India, and they arrived at a certain part in Bangladesh, and in Bangladesh they were also being redistributed by the government. Just because of the big numbers. Our family had to also move from place to place, so there must have been several big changes with new starting points.
In 1971, Bangladesh gained independence from Pakistan after a brutal war. Among its many tragedies, thousands of children were born from mass rapes committed by the Pakistan Army. War and poverty left countless children vulnerable, sparking a wave of international adoptions. The famine of 1974 only deepened the crisis. For years, the international adoptions continued until its darker side began to emerge. To learn more, we meet Elvira Loibl, an assistant professor at Maastricht University.
So that was basically the initial idea. Let's save war children or children affected by the war and the resulting extreme poverty. But at some point, also children were affected that were never voluntarily given up for adoption.
Elvira does research on illegal international adoption.
There are many adoptees that struggle with questions regarding their identity, but find it extremely difficult because the paperwork does not include correct information or includes conflicting information about their origin. So this makes it incredibly difficult for them to know where they actually come from.
But how did this happen? To find out, we are here again in Tongi, where Sander has reunited with his biological family. The local Shabla community volunteers took us to meet several other mothers who lost their babies in the 1970s, like Parul Begum.
I was a single mother. I was too poor to afford food, clothes, or a place to stay. So some people took me to this daycare center in Dhanmondi, near Dhaka, where I left my child. Later, I learned that she was sent abroad. I had no idea.
Many families shared this story, like the ones of Jamila Khatun and Abdul Quddus. Back in the 70s, poverty forced many of them to give up their children to childcare centers run by NGOs.
An organization named TDH took my brother. They told my father, "We know you can't feed your child, but there is a way out. In return, you get a job and your child will survive." That's how they took him, and we still don't know what happened to him after that.
This is how they trafficked the babies abroad. Employees of NGOs received these babies and then sent them to Dhanmondi, to the daycare center. And then from Dhanmondi they were sent abroad.
This area of Tongi has several such stories. Taslim Akhtar, a Shapla community worker in Bangladesh, knows this pain firsthand. She lost her baby sister in the 1970s and has only recently found her again, living in the Netherlands. Now she dedicates herself to helping mothers reunite with their long-lost children.
The mothers have no idea how their children are doing. How can they console themselves? If they had known and consented to their babies being sent abroad, that would be one thing. They were given to daycare centers in Dhanmondi so they could study and grow up while being cared for, and then return to their families. Nobody knew that the babies were being sent abroad.
Back in the 1970s, NGOs like the Salvation Army, Ter des Oom Netherlands, as well as others set up schools like this one in Tongi and childcare centers in Dhaka to help these children. The international adoptions were then facilitated by some of these organizations. Many in Tongi accuse Ter des Oom or TDH Netherlands of child trafficking and carrying out these forced adoptions. We reached out to several of these organizations, including TDH Netherlands, the Salvation Army, and World Children, but only TDH Netherlands responded, stating they had never been an adoption agency and declined an interview. Maastricht University researcher Elvira Leubel says that these adoptions began as a humanitarian response to man-made or natural disasters in distressed countries. But over time, it became more than that, a way for many in Western countries to have families of their own.
In the 70s, women began to delay motherhood because of education and career. And by the time they wanted to have children, they often realized that they could not have children any longer. So these cultural changes have caused the increase in infertility rates. And this is why inter-country adoption was considered as a way to respond to this demand for children.
She says the money involved in this process opened the door to corruption.
So in order to meet this intense demand from Western receiving countries, actors in those poor sending countries tried to create a supply of children by purchasing them from their parents, by kidnapping them, abducting them, and then after having falsified their paperwork, which would make them into so-called paper orphans, they would offer these children to couples and individuals in Western countries.
In recent years, as more and more adoptees in the Netherlands began searching for their biological families, troubling inconsistencies began to emerge, drawing attention to the issue. In response, the Dutch government launched an investigation into possible abuses in international adoptions between 1967 and 1998, including the potential involvement of Dutch officials. This led to the formation of the Eustra Committee, which examined adoption practices from 5 countries, including Bangladesh.
And most notably, the Commission found that the Dutch government had knowledge of these abuses abroad, but didn't do anything to prevent them.
After the Jooster Commission report was published, the Dutch government ended international adoptions in 2024. And what happens today to children in Bangladesh who don't have a family? Sanda visits a childcare home in Dhaka that raises orphans in a family-like environment.
This is a place also for me to visit because it's really part of the history after the partition where mothers brought their children as a daycare, and here not for adoption, but still it's just very much what I as a baby or a child of 2.5 also went through. So I also went to the daycare. So it's very, very nice to be able to visit and to talk and see the children.
The care workers are assigned children to care for, and they strive to create a family environment. But they prefer that children be raised in their own families.
We think that biological families are a real place for children for grown-up. If we found any biological relatives or families, then we are trying to redefine that type of children to their family members. If required, we are providing our financial and other supports and services so that they can be a contributing member of the society.
It's time for his journey to Bangladesh to come to an end. For Sanda, another homecoming awaits him, where his life began 48 years ago. He wonders what it would have been like to grow up in Bangladesh, a question he can't answer. Back in Arnhem, Suma also thinks about the life she might have had in Bangladesh. For her, it's even harder. She knows nothing of her biological family, which makes some questions impossible to answer.
When you are pregnant, when you are getting children, you go to a doctor and they ask you this kind of questions. Oh, what is your family background? Are there any disease? Are there any health issues? And then you have to answer, I don't know. And people of outside always ask personal questions. Oh, did you find your family? You must be grateful that you are here. Did you have an adoption family? Why? I don't know who my family is. I'm not the one who asked to be adopted. I didn't have a choice. And I don't need to be grateful that I'm here. Because of course it's a better life than I have when I was grown up in Bangladesh. But I don't know that. Maybe I was happier because I was in my roots, my own place. But now I'm telling the truth when they ask me, oh, how do you feel about adoption? I said, no, I'm not feeling okay about it, that I'm adopted. Because I don't know who my parents are, my biological parents. I hope also for me, for myself, that I found some peace if I found my family someday. I still have that in my mind, and it's my biggest wish.